Oh wow, I just recorded 10 minutes of audio, but TikTok wasn't able to save it, so I'll try recording it again. So this anime is Mushoku Tensei or Jobless Reincarnation, and it is now on the second season available on Netflix. It has 25 episodes, and it is a reincarnation anime. So definitely this second season has so much more in store for us. There is like two halves and two different themes to the second season. So the first half tackles more of like a very dark problem or dark age for the character reduced, and the second half of the season is more of a bit lighthearted in the beginning, but by the end there is a big like problem and realization that we have to accept. So at I'll use the first minute of this video to just convince you to watch it because it's totally worth it and you'll definitely love this anime. Now, after the first minute, we'll talk more and I'll give spoilers for this anime. Okay, I make sure I just need to stop the recording in order to know that it's still recording. Okay, so again, there will be spoilers on this recording of mine or on this video. All right, so let's talk more about Mushoku Tensei. Okay, going back to the first season, the story is dark, as I've mentioned, because it is about the character, and if you've still remember the first season, it's when his whole family is teleported to different parts of the world, and everyone is scattered, and he tries his best to find them, and he goes through like this depression of not being able to do anything, even though he is very powerful in terms of mana and skills and talent, but he feels helpless because wants to like go back to the happiness that he had and the comfort that he had before when he was at home, when he was still a kid. He's living with his dad, his mom, his best friend, his teacher. Like everything was perfect before them. So it like it is like telling us that it's similar to our lives as well. Like we have to learn how to accept these problems as we encounter them, because in the real world, like where we live now, it's also the same, where at first you live with your family, you take everything for granted, you take your happiness for granted, your parents for granted, and then when they're gone or when you're on your own, like after you leave the nest, you realize that it's much harder, and you just want to go back to the days when you can just like sit on the couch, watch TV, your mom calls you down for dinner or something like that. So but for him it's much more harder because everyone is just scattered everywhere, and he doesn't have any idea where they are, and his dad is also in another continent far away, so he's also unable to help him. And there is a time where he just feels so depressed, so alone and powerless that he just wants to give up. But he thankfully he realizes, because of the people around him, that he isn't, and it's not the end of life, and he can still go on and do what he wants to do, like fulfill his ambitions, try to still find his mom and everything. So the first half actually is very dark, and he also there is a problem. He has a problem with his thing because of his trauma. So that is another problem that is being tackled in the anime. So there is really so much going on in this second season that 25 episodes is more than enough to cover all the problems in this anime. So let's go ahead to the second part of the second season. And this is like a total turnaround, like a total change. Because, after accepting that his life has to go on, and he learns that he's not alone in the world, and, he can still do a lot of things. And it's not like the end of the road. He gets accepted to a magic school. So from that depressive state to a state of acceptance, we move on to a part where he goes to a school. So the anime becomes more normal in a way because it is like a school anime, like a slice of life anime. When he enrolled into the school, he meets his old friends, and a lot of characters from the first season comes back on the second season, second half, if you know what I mean. And it's more of like, you know, school life, him meeting new friends, impressing people. So it's more fun. The second half is more fun at first before, you know, the end of the second season. So he meets his old friends, Anoba, and you know, they start doing things together, and it's much more slow paced. And he also meets his childhood friend who is disguised as a man or as a boy, and there is like a very um romance theme going on there because his childhood friend loves him, but she can't tell him. And, you know, you're still rooting for them to be together at the end. So, good news is they do end up together. Okay, so now let's go on to the later half of the second half of the second season because it takes a bit of like a turn again from there. So, by the second or by the last few episodes of the season, he meets up again with his father who has found his mom, but they need to rescue her because he is locked up in a dungeon. Or they did say a term, but I forgot what they called the dungeon. Ruins, ancient ruins. I don't remember. Okay. Anyway, so he meets up with his dad and his old friends because there also are reintroductions of other characters in the first season. And also, he was able to meet his sensei or the person he admires the most, his teacher, and rescues her. So they meet again after long, long years. I think it was 5 years. And this is like a whole issue going on in the fan base of this anime because we all know that he loves his teacher and idolizes her up to the point that he treats her like a goddess. But in this scenario, when he rescues his teacher, she's the one who fell in love with him. And you know, there are issues of age difference. But the biggest issue here is that okay, so if you did watch the anime, then you know that Rudy did end up getting married to his childhood best friend. And so he's married, right? But when something happened during their journey, I'll also tell you anyway, because this I'm talking about spoilers already. When they were trying to rescue his mom, his dad sacrificed himself for everyone, especially for him, because he was in grave danger, so he had to sacrifice himself. And he ended up losing his dad in the worst possible way. And his mom also lost her memory, even though they rescued her. So he was in a depressive state again. And the only person that could have comforted him at that time was his teacher, who's in love with him. So, you know, just put the two together, 1 plus 1, and you know what already happened. So something happened between them. And so going back to the biggest issue I was talking about is that he's married, something again happened with his teacher, and he's confused because he knows that he loves both of the girls and he wants to make them happy. But in our world, like say in a world right now, there's like Christianity where you only get to have one wife. In their world, they call it the million religion. But if you are not a follower, then you're allowed to have multiple wives. So, like here in our world, you know, there is a religion like that that allows you to do that as well with the approval of your first wife. So, that is very controversial and that's very debatable because, you know, by the end of the story, it is being accepted. So, also by that one story, it, you know, finishes with him being disappointed and sad, but at the same time, he has to face his problems, future problems, because he's now becoming a father and the head of the household with his dad being gone. There's so much more I want to discuss, but there's so little time. And I said so much of my first recording, but it got deleted. So just comment below if you want to discuss more of this anime with me. All right. So that